Good evening, Presbyterian women, men, and interested others to this PW special gathering. I am so glad you are here firsthand to hear from this mission team who traveled to Costa Rica in January. Before we begin, I want to remind Presbyterian women to mark their calendars and register for the spring gathering on Saturday, May the 3rd at Hanover Presbyterian Church. And we look forward to the Chalk Talk by Elva Hurst in the afternoon. And you can find more information about that in our spring newsletter that is on our PW webpage through psvonline.org. So let us begin with prayer. Loving God, thank you for gathering us together to hear the stories of this mission team. PW has supported Mark Hare for many years, and we are excited to hear an update of his work and ministry. Open our ears and hearts to know how PW might continue to support Mark and his family in the coming years. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
I now turn the screen over to Patty Nussel to begin tonight's program.
Well, Patty Nussel is not going to speak. Hi, my name is Beth Askew, and I will just introduce this evening's program. Thank you so much for inviting us. We are all in one room right now, so you don't have our names. So hopefully each one of us will remember to introduce ourselves as we speak to you. If not, I'm sure we'll prod each other. This is going to have 3 parts. We're first.
Okay, it reconnected.
Okay. Martha, are we still with you?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So the first, Patty's going to talk about what does global mission look like. Then each one of us will share what parts of the trip meant the most to us or touched us. Then we'll talk about what does global mission look like now. And if you don't mind, we'd like to save the questions to the end.
My name is Patty Nussel. I'm a member of Broad Street Presbyterian Church. I've done quite a few mission activities with them in the last 20 plus years. And it's been such a joy to be with these folks here at Covenant as they embarked on their global mission program. They've been so welcoming all along and continue to be. So I'm going to start off here and do maybe one of the larger parts of today. I want to tell you why 6 Presbyterians from Columbus, Ohio went to Costa Rica in the middle of January when it was 0 degrees and lots of snow and ice on the ground, where we went, why we went, what we did, and some of the social concerns that we encountered. So as a reminder of where Costa Rica is, it's just above Panama. Panama is the skinniest little part of Central America, and just north is Costa Rica. So that's where we went to. A little bit of PCUSA history and mission, because I often get the question, why does your church go all over the world to do mission work? Well, we've been doing it for about 400 years. We've been active in the United States and around the world. We've established schools such as Princeton. In the early 1800s, we really expanded our understanding as Presbyterians of sending folks to serve in mission, both domestically and internationally. And then about 120 years ago, our General Assembly, which is our governing body, sort of redefined our job description here as the church, setting forth the 6 great ends of the church, proclaiming the gospel, spiritual fellowship, worship of God, truth preservation, social righteousness, and the exhibition of God's kingdom. That's a lot of words there. So in my mind, I use the phrase working hand in hand as God's people to mean all of that. And you'll see that in the coming slides. I do want to point out that if we are tempted to think that social righteousness or justice or what is the truth is a new thing in our political life or in our religious life, it's been the job description of the Presbyterians for more than 100 years. So that's it for our busiest slide of today. Okay. So as I said, PCUSA, our World Mission organization has been doing what it does for 188 years or more. So PCUSA, we have mission partners in 80 countries. We have a strong young adult volunteer program where for young adults generally, but not always, the year after they're done with college, it's an opportunity to spend a year in the mission field with a mission coworker. We have a strong program in the Middle East, in Lebanon, Syria, Istanbul, and Jerusalem for many years. PCUSA does a lot of their mission work around the world in global networks that connect congregations, individuals, synods, presbyteries to come together to work together to serve God's people. And in this picture, you see some young boys in Africa with moringa tree seedlings. These trees are a project of several PCUSA mission partners in Africa. It looks as if they're picking them up. I got this slide from the PCUSA website. And many people do, this is sort of like a traditional thought of what mission work is, you know, Africa, food, that sort of thing. And indeed, that is mission work. But global mission with the church can also look like this. And this is Joel here with Mark Hare, a few women from Costa Rica, and our Susan as well from Covenant Presbyterian Church, having tea as guests at the home of this neighbor in Costa Rica. They explained to us that Costa Rica is a largely Catholic nation. There are some evangelicals there. And when the Presbyterian Seminary was built down the street or began accepting students and educating Protestants, they said, you know, this was when Northern Ireland was going on and Protestants and Catholics were killing each other. But they had a priest come who said that the Presbyterians are friends. And they've been working towards peace with Presbyterians ever since then. And this is the result. We got to enjoy that tea with our Catholic neighbors and our Presbyterian co-worker, Mark Hare, in their Catholic home. Presbyterian mission sometimes looks like this. This is Tori, one of our group with the blonde hair, and Carla, one of the Presbyterian mission workers who works with Mark at UBL. UBL is the Spanish abbreviation, or when the Spanish words for the Bible Institute there in Costa Rica, where Carla is a professor and that Mark is associated with as well. Tori will speak more to it later, but she's there with women who have been trafficked and have emerged from that due to a ministry that came about because of UBL. This is also what working hand in hand looks like. This is Susan in the garden, in the community garden that Mark Hare manages. Both locals and international guests work side by side to produce food for the community. More on that later from Susan. Working hand in hand as God's people looks like a minister with a machete here. This is Joel cleaning some brush away in the community garden in order to make more compost and in order to clear more land. How often do you get a minister with the machete? I just think we need to keep this one handy. Working in global mission can look like this, not to be outdone with his machete. Here are two other of our mission group team members, Betsy and Beth, along with Mark Hare in the community garden with their garden implements that they are wielding there. after a morning of working hard, I'm sure. Working hand in hand as God's people can look like this. This is part of the Bible Institute in Costa Rica, where our mission coworkers are based. And that's me in front of the front door. We learned at this Bible University what is going on religiously in this country. We learned about this Bible Institute, which people will talk more about later. But that's what global mission can look like as well. Global mission can look like learning. This is a classroom at the UBL, at the Bible College University, and we are being lectured to as if we're in a college class, because we are in a college class. World mission can look like this. This is our group at an environmental office where the local people are working to counter the effects of agribusiness that has moved into the rainforests, which is their ancestral homeland in Costa Rica. And we're learning about what's going on there and the efforts to bring justice to the people who have held the lands for many years. This is working hand in hand. Sometimes means going for a short little hike at the edge of the rainforest and looking up in the trees for those
toucans.
Those toucans, you know, like on the cereal box, right? And sometimes working hand in hand as God's people around the world just means having fun. This is our group on a short hike at the edge of the rainforest. This is our guide in the rainforest pointing out a lovely flower. Working hand in hand as God's people and world mission means learning about the environment, the country that we're in. Here's just a beautiful shot of Costa Rica out the van window, I think it is. Susan, I think you took that, or maybe Tori did. You can see the beautiful natural vegetation and the water that's so important to life. And this is one of those areas that has been taken over by agribusiness to grow pineapples. Costa Rica is the world's #1 pineapple producer in the world. If you go to the grocery store, look at the pineapples next time, you'll probably see that they come from Costa Rica. We learned that Hawaii does not produce pineapples anymore. Oh, they do not? Okay. So Hawaii does? Oh, okay. We've learned that pineapple growing is very hard on the soil, and it cannot be done for a terribly long period of time because the soil gets depleted. This is a picture just of how people live in Costa Rica near the rainforest. They've lived in villages like this for a long time. And some of the folks we met are trying to prevent villages like this by being taken over by the pineapple plantations. Working hand in hand as God's people around the world looks like church. This is the Presbyterian Church in a barrio in Costa Rica with a lay person reading from the Bible. This is the same church with Joel and the local minister preparing the elements for communion. Sometimes working hand in hand as God's people is just plain old love. This is one of our folks, Betsy, giving a hug to a mother and these young children. You know, when we're first strangers and then we become friends, all under the umbrella and in the name of Christ. And I also have observed or believe to happen as a side effect of all of our wonderful religious global mission that we do. This woman and her young children there will remember us Americans in a positive light. They'll know the Americans came and helped. The Americans came and helped them with food, with the garden that Mark works in. You know, they were kind and generous. And so this is soft power in action as we read about that happening or not happening so much around the world by Americans. Sometimes working hand in hand means visiting the local basilica. This is a basilica built around an image of Mary. And That's our group in front of it. The next slide is going to be the front door of this basilica, which I just found so interesting. As a sign of their adoration, people will enter the basilica on their knees and walk on their knees all the way to the front of the basilica where the image of the Virgin Mary is. My knees could not withstand such a thing, but they do that. Working hand in hand with God's people sometimes look like this. This is a coffee farmer, an organic coffee farmer we met. He happens to be, he's been there 40 years with his wife. And he's a farmer from Salina, Ohio. So it was great to meet a fellow Ohioan with great English and learn about how coffee is grown. On the left is a picture of the coffee plant. It's a fruit. I didn't know that. The bean is underneath that fleshy part. And then there's the harvest on the other side with his dog checking it all out. And that's another picture of our coffee, small farmer, organic grower with one of his machines. Working hand in hand as God's people sometimes, as I said before, is just learning. Here is our group, our Costa Rica group, with a human rights lawyer and professor who gave us a wonderful, comprehensive, but crash course in the global pressures that face developing nations and all of us, really. Not sure what happened there. So why do we do Global Mission? I took this from the Peace USA website. It does help us understand issues of ministry across the world. You know, whatever issues of ministry we have in our own congregation or presbytery, it's not the same everywhere. And so it helps us understand that. But also at bottom, we do believe that despair, poverty, and violence are being overcome in the name of Jesus. That's why we have these mission coworkers stationed around the world. That's why they have congregations like us coming to visit and help them in their work. Our PCUSA mission, global mission program has been guided by the Matthew 25 vision. Matthew 25 encourages Christians to actively serve the marginalized and those in need. And we should focus on building congregational vitality, dismantling structural racism, and eradicating systemic poverty. Matthew 25 is where Jesus emphasizes that our actions toward the least of these are really seen as being done to him. In my experience, I have seen congregations come alive when they engage in global mission. I don't know what it is that does that, but when we take people from Ohio and send them to the global South, it just opens our eyes and our hearts and our minds to what God is doing there. And that just sparks a certain interest and energy for some people. Now, you don't have to have your whole church a big proponent of global mission. Not everyone, different strokes for different folks. Not everyone is going to like the same thing. But for some, it just can be a real energy giver for those people and for the congregation. I do know that some congregations believe that global mission and mission opportunities, like the one Covenant just engaged in, is a component of Christian education. You know, we do a lot with our little children. And then as they get to junior high and high school and college, you know, that's where our Christian education can look more like giving them opportunities to see God at work outside of their hometown city, state, travel the nation perhaps, and have a global mission witness. Global mission in the Presbyterian Church is also a way to show and engage in peacemaking. And as I said, regarding the conflicts between Catholics and Protestants, we were front row seat to a recipient of that work that has been going on for quite a while. So Covenant Presbyterian Church in Costa Rica, we went to see what God's already doing in this part of the world. It's not that we brought God to Costa Rica. She was already there doing God's work. But we chose this location because Mark Hare, one of the Presbyterian co-workers there, is from our presbytery, and because his focus is on the environment and environmental justice, and that spoke to Covenant. So we had hoped that this scouting group of 6 of us would come back with a scouting report, if you will. Perhaps recommending to Covenant, to the Presbytery, and to others that we form a long-term relationship with Mark and his work. But we got there to Costa Rica and we found out that things are changing. Nothing stays the same.
When we planned this trip, we thought we were going to see Mark Hare and Jenny Bent and the Green Team in Costa Rica. When we arrived in San Jose, we realized we had stumbled on something much bigger. I will talk through this a little bit. Our days were full. We often started always start at 7 a.m.
Or earlier.
And we sometimes were working in the community garden with Mark by 8. We had coffee at 10 with a presentation at 10:30. Lunch was often food and conversation with members of the community or with Mark Hare or with Carla Cole. And then we had another presentation at 1:30 with coffee and a snack at 3:30, dinner and a program or a debrief in the evening. And often we would debrief informally in our dorm rooms after the formal day was over. So it was a very long, very, very full day, beautifully planned for us. We were housed at UBL, the Latin American Biblical University, and quickly came to know that we were in a unique institution. This is a picture of the original class in 1922, and that is all women. UBL was founded as a Bible training college with 8 women students by Susan Strachan, a British missionary. Now think about this. Costa Rica was Christianized by Roman Catholics and is culturally very Catholic still. This is a Protestant college. Today, UBL is an ecumenical institution, and its students and professors come from various Protestant traditions as well as Roman Catholic communities. And just to put the status of women in contrast, the 19th Amendment that gave women the right to vote in this country was ratified in 1920. Women in Costa Rica exercised the right to vote for the first time in 1950. So this was a Protestant college for women founded in 1922. And go to the next slide, please. This is a statue commemorating 100 years of the school. And it's a symbol of the continuing dream of UBL that poor, Indigenous, Black, mixed, and white women have access to theological education. And the next slide, please. And the second piece that meant a lot to me was something called contextual reading. Now, this is one of our presenters, Mia Umana. She calls herself a woman, a pastor, and an activist. She works with Indigenous women, sometimes walking miles to reach them in the mountains. She's nearing the end of her degree at UBL. She worked for years as a counselor before she went into theologic studies. Her training in trauma is especially important because she works with women and children in China Kucha, a territory the Indigenous people recently recovered from outsiders who had illegally taken over their land. And outsiders continue to attack the community now, burning their crops and at times even their homes. So Mia spoke about how her studies at UBL have given her an understanding of how God is present in the midst of communities who are defending their lives. She has learned to lead groups to read the Bible in conversation with their circumstances, to discern how to live out God's justice. Mia described UBL, the Latin American Biblical University, as faith in action, proclaiming care for creation. And that is what I witnessed in Costa Rica over and over again. Faith in action, proclaiming care for creation. The next slide is Patty's.
Oh, we're each just giving a highlight of what we found the most impactful. And this is Patty Nussel, but on the screen is Carla Cole. Well, we went to Costa Rica to connect with Mark Hare, and we didn't realize that Carla is also a PCUSA, is also a PCUSA mission coworker. She's a professor at this seminary, and I just realized the value of having women seminary professors teaching theological education in this largely Catholic and evangelical country. And I realized that without people like Carla and institutions like UBL, women, gays, other people who are in the minority will never have a chance to be ministers of the word and sacrament and to preach that God's love is for all. Instead, we would cede that all of that role to the Catholics and the evangelicals who have a different message than the Presbyterian Church does. Next.
Is this me? This is Betsy Sebastian speaking. This was a group that met in the classroom, and we broke into two groups. 3 of us were in one group and 3 in another, and then members of the community were there with us as well. So we met first in the classroom so we could get to know each other with little icebreakers that were kind of funny. We learned little funny things about each other and then had to tell the group about it. And then we were into 2 groups, and then we took a walking tour of Cedros, which is the community inside of San Jose where we were. Should be one there showing us walking. There we are. And we started out together, then the 2 groups split up. The group that I was in, we chatted as we walked. We looked at the different houses in the neighborhood. We walked to a park, discovered interesting things like beautiful flowers, pretty birds. I was interested in the Christmas decorations that were still up. They look very much like our own Christmas decorations, like plastic snowmen, and they don't have snow there, and nativity scenes, much like in our own neighborhoods. Can go to another. This is looking down one of the streets as we were walking along. Those are the different styles of houses we saw as we were walking along too. Next one. We're still walking. Just different things we see along our walk. It's really interesting. We came out of the UBL University, off of the campus, and we're out into the community. And it was really nice to be able to be out and explore. After a walk, we ended up at the home of Giselle. She's there at the end of the table, I think. And it was such a nice home, very homey. The other group showed up, and soon after, we all took seats around 2 large tables. We were generously served with coffee, tea, and delicious desserts. They were so good, and we loved them. And we had several different choices. We each had some of everything. It was definitely a warm and caring community of friends that we had made. We shared what we saw on our walks. We chatted, we laughed as we discussed what we did. It was just so nice being invited into the home of one of our new acquaintances. Giselle's son helped with the communication. He was able to be one of our translators. He's the one there next to Beth, between Beth and Patty. But that was just such a nice thing to add to our trip, to be able to see people in their homes and see how they lived.
Hi, I'm Tori, and kind of my favorite part, although I love the whole trip, one of my favorite parts was getting to meet the women of Casament. One of my roles at Covenant is to coordinate volunteers that serve Catch Court in downtown Columbus, the women who are leaving human trafficking and sex work. This is the same work that is being done by Casament in San Jose, in Costa Rica. And so you can see who we are. And Betsy, who was just speaking, has her arm around one of our presenters, and I've got my arm around another. We've got Greta and Marta. And then leading them is the young woman in the beautiful colored, kind of like a floral shirt and pink pants. That's Carol Ma. And she's kind of the saber rattler ringleader of that group. She had a difficult childhood, lived on the streets for a while. The other women spent far longer on the streets. An important difference between Casement and Catch Court is that in Catch Court, the women are adjudicated in, that's a special docket. Casement comes into an existence because Carol goes and provides a ministry of presence to the women. She goes to the Zona Roja, which is where a great deal of trafficking happens, has coffee with the women, talks with them. Carol is a trained pastor now through UBL, and her gospel is that Jesus loves you exactly as you are. You don't have to leave sex work for Jesus to love you. You don't have to stop using drugs for Jesus to love you. Jesus loves you right now. And if you would like to stop using drugs, and if you would like to leave sex work, I can help you with that. But I'm here no matter what, and I'm your friend, and we're going to pray together, and we're going to read the Bible together. And so, like Catch Court, there are many great connections with psychotherapy, drug and alcohol recovery, job training. Some of that training that is therapeutic in nature resulted in writing that book that you see. You can see a hand in a book of a lady with legs and shoes, and that's all. Those are stories that the women wrote about their lives, and they were bound in a book so that there's a permanent product of their experiences. I'd also like to ask Joel to see if we can get that CasamentCR.org link at the bottom to be live. I love their website. It's extremely well done. If you have Google Translate loaded on your machine, you can toggle that into English and have instant access to everything. If you've ever been to Catch Court and you look at the pictures of their women, wow, this is a worldwide thing, and it's great to see that recovery is worldwide as well. And the women who we met were absolutely lovely. It's exciting work that they're doing. And that was my favorite part.
There. Good. Just keep going. I don't know how that got there.
The slides look different than they did when I was working on them.
Somehow we missed Susan and the garden, but that's okay.
Do you want me to talk?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm Susan Fromkes. Some of the slides that were shown before are slides that would have been in my talk anyway. So the first thing I learned when I went down there was Mark and Carla are so special to the people that they have connected with. People they've touched and cared about, and how that now touches our lives. We met many courageous women, one of which was Erlinda. She was one of 2 Presbyterian peacemakers who visited the U.S. with Carla. They came to explain their plight for clean water their communities once had, now toxic because of chemicals polluting their watersheds. The picture where we were in the tent-like environment is their headquarters. And we got to visit with their, and like the other picture said, into their rainforest. The chemicals polluting their water comes from commercial pineapple plantations, some of which are illegally expanding into the protected rainforest. My daughter told me when I explained their plight that it reminded her of the movie Erin Brockovich. Approximately 3/4 of the world's pineapples are now grown in Costa Rica. Fewer and fewer pineapples are now grown in the US. Dole's pineapple production in Hawaii is primarily a tourist attraction. They have no canning or shipping. This is in part because many of the chemicals being used in Costa Rica coming from our country are now illegal in our country. Although Dole claims it has some fair trade organic pineapple, no one knows where they're being grown. Of course, Dole isn't the only commercial company that they there. But these women have made progress. They have the University of Costa Rica helping them. They've proved the water was contaminated and the government has had to step in, but they're still fighting. But I've also learned they aren't the only people that care about their country and their environment. When we arrived at UBL, we were introduced to their green initiative. They have solar power. They had solar power installed in 2019. They have a large rainwater collection system, which is used for many things, including laundry washing machines. But Mark's community garden was special. We met people living around UBL, as well as students from the University of Costa Rica who are engaged with the community garden. This is the UBL Green Team. Mark wants to continue to make this a special place. This special place bring community members together, learning new, ever-evolving garden practices. We learned about composting, which includes busy little red worms that aren't real worms going down into the ground. No-till gardening practices and some do's and don'ts that are practiced in our garden here, but are not practiced down there. Mark wants to be able to turn over this wonderful garden to the people working and invested in the garden. Mark and Jenny are committed to providing adequate training for the many aspects involved in running the garden and have it flourish. Mark also introduced the Presbyterian Church, a place for everyone, which we saw the slide for. What a wonderful experience we had with them. The work the church has done with its youth and community is a lesson in resilience and survival. These aren't new fights for these people, but they're fights they are making progress with to improve conditions they live with. We heard about so many struggles to save their environment and their way of life. A point was brought up earlier, said mission awareness can have congregations come alive when they engage in world mission. Well, I know I'm gonna make it. This trip had that effect on me. And she did a great job. Who's next?
So I think that we've shared with you what a great impact this was on all of us. And when we arrived Tuesday evening, the 7th of January, that evening, we were sitting around with Carla Cole and Mark and talking about the week. And they shared with us at that time, that evening, that they believed that their jobs were about to come to an end. We were incredibly blessed that they shared that with us at that time, because it was something on their minds and we were a part of that as they waited to hear from the PCUSA. We were incredibly blessed also to have Joel with us as our pastor, as he was able to witness to the work of this mission in Costa Rica, and also to see what effect decisions were having on the people we had come to respect and love. So I don't remember the dates, but as you may know, almost all of the mission coworkers now have been let go, including Mark and Jenny and Carla Cole. There are new positions entitled liaison. It's not clear what their roles will be, but I'm going to turn this now over to Joel to describe what is the future of Global Mission.
Thank you. So, you know, when Mark shared with us that first night that he might be fired by the end of the week, that was obviously stunning. It was stunning news to us. I didn't know anything of what was coming. And it was clear to me in that moment, oh, this is why we've come. We didn't know this is why we've come, but this is why we're here, to bear witness to this extraordinary work that he and Carla and Jenny and Javier are doing, and perhaps to support them through whatever transition is coming. So as Beth has shared, and hopefully by now some of you all have read about this, PCUSA has ended Global Mission Program as we know it. It is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Some people of the 80-some workers that have all been laid off, I believe there are 30 or so of those who are being offered positions as what are called global ecumenical liaisons. What these positions are and what people are going to do, we don't know yet. That information is coming out quite slowly. So in the absence of it, what we're trying to figure out as a congregation and also as a presbytery is, can we continue to support this work that we were immersed in and fell in love with and believe in? So that's what we've been hard at work doing since we got back in January. So everything I'm going to share with you now is incredibly nascent, and there are many moving pieces that are beyond the control of all of us on this call, but they are not beyond the control of us as a presbytery as a whole. One of my great things that has upset me through this process is that I perceive the way that this program has ended is a very top-down approach. It's coming from this new unified interim commission that exists to unite the Office of General Assembly as well as Presbyterian Mission Agency, and it is coming down from on high, and very little has been done to communicate why this is happening. When people are raising frustrations and questions about it, we're not really being heard. Here's the idea. Here's the pitch that we're trying to work on: is can our presbytery continue to financially support Mark and Jenny in their work in Costa Rica? And the best path that we see towards doing that would be to hire them as presbytery staff. If any of you are aware of the work of Taylor Barner at Jacob's Porch at OSU, this provides our Presbyterian model whereby we can hire someone onto our staff and have that staff position funded in other ways. So unlike our other presbytery staff who are supported through per capita, we anticipate this position for Mark and Jenny to be supported through individual donations, congregational donations, and potentially the support of our presbytery as well financially. So that's what I've been in contact with our Presbytery Council, with our Operations Commission, and I'll be presenting at CJO next week as well. So what I'm hoping for, envisioning, is as possibly two motions on the floor of Presbytery. The first motion would be coming from operations to hire Mark and Jenny as Presbytery staff, whose positions will be funded separate from the regular budget of the Presbytery. So that's the motion. Yeah, yes or no? Can we do this? And if it passes, then what I would love to see is a second motion, where if you're familiar with per capita, mission giving operates the same way per capita does, though they do different things. When you give per capita, X amount goes to your presbytery, another amount goes to the synod, and another amount goes to the General Assembly. Mission giving operates the same way. A portion of it goes to the presbytery, a portion of it goes to synod, and a portion of it goes to General Assembly. What the session of covenant has already decided is we are the largest mission giver in our presbytery. We are not the largest church. We're not even close to the largest church. But we give more money to Presbytery mission giving than any other church in Scioto Valley. So what we decided is that we are going to designate the portion that would go to General Assembly, and instead of giving it to them, we will give it to Mark and Jenny should this plan work. Right? So, that's the big if. But it's being set aside. We've stopped giving to General Assembly for mission giving, not for per capita. And we're holding that money in the hope that this plan follows through. I am also hoping that our presbytery will consider doing the exact same thing with their mission giving. So I will present to CJO next week and give them this idea. They're open to it, but I've not spoken to them yet. I can also tell you that operations is very open to this idea. Will they do it? I don't know. But they're when they've been presented with it, they have not said that's a terrible idea. They've said that's a really good idea. So if those two things happen, or even if the first thing, let's just say the first one happens. Florida Presbytery votes down. We don't want to give our Presbytery mission giving, but we do want to hire them as staff. Okay, then what happens at that moment is everybody on this call, all of your congregations, everybody who cares about our presbytery's continued involvement and support of global mission in Costa Rica can be asked to financially support this effort. So if that first motion does come to the floor and if it passes, then every dollar could go to Presbytery Scioto Valley, designated for Mark Hare and Jenny Bent. And that money would get collected at the presbytery level and then sent off for their salaries in Costa Rica, as well as their insurance to the Board of Pensions. To make this happen, we anticipate they will need probably as much as $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. It could be a little less than that. We're not sure yet, especially as it relates to their benefits. When you think of 2 employees full-time, that's a great deal. $120,000 per year for 2 employees, entire package, that's a steal of a deal. And it may come in at less than that. If these are big ifs, but if the same commitment that Covenant has made, if PSV made that same commitment, right there, that's $60,000 a year between the 2 of them. So you're halfway to your goal with 2 pledges. I think that between the other folks that are on this call, the other people that have supported Mark and Jenny in the past, we can get to that number, I believe, with some hard work, but it can happen. So that's what we're proposing. That's what we're hoping for. And that's what we want to see happen. I will share very briefly that the most meaningful part of the trip to me was hearing the stories of Mark and Jenny, and then Carla and her husband, Javier. Jenny is from Nicaragua, so is Javier, Carla's husband. They're from very different parts of Nicaragua. Jenny grew up indigenous on the East Coast. Javier grew up on the West Coast, which is the power center of Nicaragua. And they both lived through the violent revolution of the 1980s, 70s, and 80s that our government tried to overthrow. We sent in and supported, the government of the United States supported Contras in Nicaragua to overthrow this people's movement. And our Presbyterian missions at that time were all in support of the people, working against the policies of the United States government on behalf of the people of Nicaragua. And so hearing the stories of what Jenny and what Javier went through in Nicaragua, and what they have sacrificed as a family, it was so clear to me that as a pastor, every year I get to preach about Jesus saying, take up your cross and follow me. And every year I come to that passage, I don't know how to make sense of it because it's a pure metaphor. It's not real in that that I am ever being asked to put my life on the line for the sake of the gospel. In the case of Javier, Carlos' husband, he cannot go back to Nicaragua because if he does, he will likely be jailed, tortured, and killed the way the two of his brothers have been killed by the Daniel Ortega regime based on their faith-based resistance to the totalitarian regime in play in Nicaragua. So for these people, taking up your cross is not a metaphor. It's the real thing. It is as real as it was for Jesus and his disciples in the first century. And that put in me the desire to support these mission co-workers who have sacrificed so much for the sake of the gospel. Can we not continue to support them? And then simultaneously, in doing that, I want to support them because I believe in them. I also believe that our presbytery will be reinvigorated, revitalized by reconnecting ourselves to global mission so that we're no longer just writing checks to Louisville and who knows where those go. And we get a nice little glossy brochure once a year that says, hey, you supported something. Isn't that nice? We will be giving to people who we know, who we believe in. And when their time is up, we may say this model of giving is one that we want to continue to support and find other people doing God's work globally that we want to be a part of. So that's the pitch. That's what we're hoping to see happen. And that's what I'm hoping folks on this call would be inspired and feel called by God to be a part of.
Are there any questions?
So I'll begin with a question. So Joel, is this commitment for 1 year? Is it for 2 years? What is the length of this commitment as you see it?
That's a great question. For Mark and Jenny, they would like to stay in Costa Rica through June of 2026. Sorry, right? June of 27. Sorry, 27. June of 2027. So the goal would be to extend their stay for 2 years. That's what Covenant has already pledged for, and that's what we'd like to see happen for them.
That would have been the end of their contract.
Correct. That would have been the end of their agreement with PMA had PMA not decided to let them go.
And with the start.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, an explicit goal of Mark's that he would like us all to keep in the forefront is UBL. UBL has kind of been the location that has been sort of a hub for all of the work that they've been doing. And they seek to make their efforts go on after their contract is complete. And with UBL being kind of the hub upon which all of those efforts could turn.
That's exactly right, because when Mark and Jenny come back to the States, as they will presumably at some point, the work of UBL must go on. There is no other seminary in Central America that is training women and LGBT people to do ministry of the gospel. There's no other place. So we must continue this work for the sake of the gospel, not just for Costa Rica, but for all of Central America.
Yeah. So I will let you know, Joel, I'll see you on Tuesday at the CJO meeting. But when our PWPSB coordinating team met earlier in March, I asked the question, we've not really had a mission project this past year, but with the looking ahead, maybe for the next 2 years, I asked the group what they thought about having Mark and Jenny be our mission project over the next 2 years. And there was complete support for that. So I know that we're going to have a new moderator in the spring. And so as time progresses, we will make that. I don't know how much money that will mean, but I think that we can think creatively and get the women involved throughout our presbytery, which means we've got ambassadors to a lot of the churches too. And they can, you know, how we can build that support in congregations. I think that we've got a wonderful network of women to be able to figure this out and to raise the money for this as a mission project.
Other questions from folks?
I was just going to say that you shouldn't. I mean, Martha is already on it, but the way I first knew about Mark and Jenny was through PW. So don't forget PW as a source of support and money.
Now, both on the presbytery level and the individual congregational level. Yes, because
Right.
both
Correct.
have budgets and passion. It'd be beautiful too for PW across this presbytery to be integral in this project because it perfectly reflects everything we saw in Costa Rica. You heard some of these stories. It was story after story of graduates from UBL, of women who are organizing themselves for the sake of their communities, their children, in really radical, profound ways. We're, you know, for most of us, same thing, Matthew 25, this is a generalization, but for most of our congregations, Matthew 25 is something that we verbally affirm. We say, isn't this good? They're doing it. They're doing all the work down there. So we got to catch up with them. There's part of me that ignorant Joel thought I'll go down to Costa Rica and is it going to be this Central America place where, you know, women and queer people have to hide. And it's like, oh no, they're way out in front of you guys. Let them lead you.
I will share one hope is that the presbytery will become the fiscal agent who can receive donations from enthusiastic people and then forward those donations to UBL, who would be the Costa Rican fiscal agent.
Yeah, but that just so we're clear, we're not ready for that yet because people have been asking, where do I send my check? The answer is nowhere yet, because we have to do this the way that we do it. And we need to make sure the way we do this is the right way. If we don't like what Louisville has done and feel like it's top down, then let's do it bottom up, which is exactly what we're doing here today. Raising support through the people of our presbytery to see, is this something we want to do? And if so, I also believe in this moment, as I shared this vision with someone last week, there are a lot of people in our presbytery and our churches right now who are feeling incredibly disempowered by agencies that are above them, that are making decisions that affect people all across the world in ways that we say, this is not what I signed up for, and I don't know what I can do about it. Well, we can't fix everything in the world, but here's an area that we actually can do something about. It is within our power to do this. We just have to decide if we want to do it.
I just would like to add in, Carla was a classmate of mine in seminary many, many, many years ago. And I just think the world of her, and I've seen her several times since our graduation. My understanding is that she and Javi are staying in Costa Rica.
That's right.
Yeah.
That they've been renting for a long, long time, and we'll be settling there. And my hunch is that Carla is going to be teaching as a volunteer for a long time to come, but that's because she can. She's at a stage where she's able to do that. Wendy McCormick was also a classmate of hers, and so I just want to there's a couple allies floating around here. And if there are things, I can't speak for you, but if there's things that I can do to help the cause, I'd love to be part of that process. And I understand we're supporting the Hares, but it's also very interconnected, and all part of a ministry. I visited the seminary, many years ago, and again, it was just an incredibly moving experience to be down there. So, would love to support this in whatever way I can.
Thank you, Karen. And you are correct. Everything you said about Carla and Javier is correct, is my understanding as well. And Carla is aware of this plan, is in support of it, and is not looking for our financial support. She wants us to do this for Mark and Jenny. So we're not picking one over the other. This is exactly what they're both hoping for. This family that's beloved. Yes, Lynn, you gotta
Any
unmute.
other questions?
Yeah, Lynn.
There you go.
There
Broad
you go.
Street. Broad Street has had very strong connections with Frontera de Cristo
Yes.
at the border. And Mark was actually asked to be one of those liaisons and said his work was on the border. And Miriam was not asked. So,
Yes.
and then so I don't know where our church is about continuing to support them in any way. I know I've been reached out to by Mark and Miriam.
Different Mark, just so everybody knows that this, if you don't know, the Mark that Lynn's referring to is a different coworker who works on the border.
Right.
Keep going.
And then we're also have been very involved with people in Lima, Peru. Jenny and Jed Coble, but they have been asked, both of them, Jenny for YAV and Jed to lead the whole of South America as a liaison. And they have both accepted. But then our third place was in the Congo. So DRC, but those people have chosen to retire.
Yeah.
And they're old enough that it's okay. They did not want to become liaisons, as he was asked to. It's a mess, and I don't know what Broad Street's going to do, but
Yeah.
I know I have very strong feelings about Mark Hare and Jed and Jenny and Mark and Miriam. And I have really strong feelings about Good Shepherd Hospital because we've had so many mission coworkers there for years. I mean, it's just, this is really hard because we have these relationships with people and they matter.
Thank you, Lynn. I'll share on that with Mark and Miriam working at the border. I have been in touch with the Presbytery exec in Tucson, of which Miriam is a member. And they are also looking at doing a similar thing that we're doing. I don't know if they will. We're actually, based on the conversation I had, we are further along in this process than they are. But because Mark is being offered the position and Miriam is not, their presbytery is considering doing a similar thing for them. So there may be opportunities to financially support Miriam moving forward, but it would be through that presbytery. If that happens, we'll gladly share the word for others on that, because we've got to stop thinking of these things as though it is if we give to one thing, there won't be enough money for the other. It's the opposite. When we are connected with vital missions that we believe in, the funding will come. And so I will gladly support, work wherever it is that is inspiring for our churches. And I also just, I've been in touch with some of the leaders at Broad Street as well about this, because I want to make sure that the churches who care about these things are connected and planning and praying together.
Thank you, Joel.
My history may not be accurate, but my memory is that the way that mission coworkers were funded in the past was largely through congregations directly,
Yes.
rather than through the denomination as a whole. And for many years, I supported Carla in sent the checks or deposits through the PCUSA. So it wasn't like I wrote them to Carla. It was coordinated through the Mission Council, but then it became part of one large melting pot. It wasn't designated to anyone. And so in some ways, this is kind of going back to the old days.
That's
where
right.
there's a more direct relationship with particular mission coworkers. And there's something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, so it's going back to the old days of a few years ago when we did that. It's also going back to the old days of this is how missionaries initially were sent 102 years ago. They weren't sent from a central office in New York City. They were sent through their presbyteries. So this is the old model. And I'm glad you brought that up, Karen, because Mark and Jenny do have the list of people and churches that have supported them in the past. If and when this plan goes through, we will solicit every single one of those people. And so that is where that's one of the very rich resources that we will draw upon should this plan go through. Les Sauer, you'd like to speak.
I just wanted to add a bit to that historical perspective. The mountains you see behind me in this block here are the Himalayan mountains. That's where I went to a missionary boarding school. My parents, Francis and Ernestine Sauer, went to China, along with my sister and I, to China in 1947 and India in 1950. And at that stage, we were supported by the Maumee Presbytery. And later, the mission support, as Karen just indicated, became coordinated through the mission board and dispersed, more generally. But so it's kind of going full circle back to that stage in our mission history, if you will. And my only concern was how we sort out concerns that other churches in the presbytery may have for people they've taken a particular interest in, as Lynn was suggesting, Broad Street has done. As time goes on, that may come up as a concern.
It absolutely will, Les, and I think that that's part of the reason I've been in touch with Broad and others. And so if we know of people—
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Joel.
If we know of other mission coworkers that churches or individuals have supported that we need to look out for, please either reach out to those people yourself, bring them to our attention. What I don't want, and I can absolutely see happening, is this dying on the floor of presbytery because what about this person or what about that person?
Right.
Well,
Right.
as Lynn just outlined, many of those that we're concerned with already have plans. Some are retiring, some are we don't need to worry about some of them because anyway, but that's the kind of question that we've got to be prepared for, hopefully with good answers, because
one way you can find out about that, I know it's not a popular place to contact right now, but the Presbyterian Mission Agency does have a listing of those congregations that have, they don't designate their giving as such, but they've adopted certain mission personnel as special interest, and they can provide you with that information.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you to you all for this work. The timing seems really providential, if I can use that word. that you were there at that particular moment in time, you know, with the open-heartedness of looking for mission coworkers to support and engage with, and that it's at such a time that they need support and engagement more than ever. And then for your strategic minds to think through the steps that are ahead, because this really is so time sensitive. So thank you very much for leading the charge with us.
Yeah.
Joel, could you please, for someone such as I, state in very simple terms, what are the two motions that are going to be coming on the Presbytery floor?
Sorry, and I just want to emphasize could happen. The two that I'm envisioning and hoping for. The first would be a motion coming from our Operations Commission to hire Mark Hare and Jenny Bent as employees of the Presbytery Soda Valley whose funding for their position is not in the regular budget of the PSV, but will be funded through support elsewhere. So that way the motion can rise or fall. And you don't have to worry about, well, we didn't budget for this. Doesn't matter. It's being funded elsewhere. And if the funds aren't raised, then maybe we have hard conversations, but we're not putting the Presbytery on the financial hook to pay them. That's the first motion. The second motion could be from CJO to designate the GA portion of our Presbytery's mission giving to this cause, or a portion of it, which, as I understand it, is around $50-some thousand per year. So if we wanted to give all of it, that would obviously get us a long way towards the $120,000 a year we need to raise. But that's going to be up to CJO. That's going to be up to Presbytery.
So when can we go ahead and share this with people in our church?
I mean, I think it's not secret in that this is the work of the commissions in our Presbytery, and we're working on it. So,
yeah, I mean, as long as it's presented as not a done deal, but a hope and a goal, you know.
So these are two ideas that we're considering at this time.
That's right. And I can imagine them it's going to take a lot. It is taking a lot of work, but could we get them both on the floor by May? Because that would really help. It is possible. Mark did get is it a 2-month extension?
2 months.
2 months. That helps us a little bit on the timeline. I'd still want to get it done in May if we can, because I think if they're going to move back to the States for the sake of their family, they should do so over this summer. Or early fall. And so to continue to dangle out, maybe we're happy, maybe we aren't. I just don't think it's fair to them as a family. They need to know, are they coming back or not? So I'm really shooting for that May meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'd like to say thank you to Martha Poole for really hosting this meeting. It was her brainchild to have this special meeting of PWPSV, and Martha, thank you, because we all needed to hear this.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel, and all of you from Covenant. And Patty, I guess you were the Broad Street representative. Thank you all for going on that on behalf of all, because mission is what PW has always been about. And we're not giving it up.
That's right.
She said it before I could, but I thank you too for your presentation tonight, for your willingness to go on such a trip, to be the good listeners, to be able to bring back the message of the work that all of them are doing, and bring this heartfelt need back to us. And like I said, we're already kind of moving ahead to be able to raise money over the next 2 years towards this. We don't know how much that will be, but again, I think that you have PW's support. And who knows, we might just help blow it out of the water. And so forth. Joel, may I ask you to close our gathering tonight?
Sure. Let us pray. Gracious God, whose mission caused you to leave heaven, to cross that barrier, to come to earth. You are the God who lets nothing, no barrier, no geography, no wall or law or division keep us from you. You are the one who seeks us out time and again. And so as we have been engaged in your mission, our hearts are grieving at the loss of this historic relationship that we've had as a church body. And we are holding on to hope that just as you are not done with us, you are not done with Costa Rica, and your work is continuing in all of our lives, Lord, would you reignite in our hearts a new vision for where it is you might lead us, and one that might reinstill vitality and hope in our hearts and our congregations, that we might see and celebrate and be a part of the good things that you are doing in this world that we are not going to let go. So as we go from this place, remind us, Lord, that we always have more power than we are led to believe, and that our efforts and dollars and prayers and voices all make a difference in this world that you love so much. So send us out in that hope. And we pray that if this vision that has been presented tonight is from you, that you would see it through, you'd see it through by inspiring the hearts of your people. Lord, may it be. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you all. Have a lovely evening. Good to see you.
Be safe.
Thank you all for joining us. And this concludes our gathering for tonight.
Good night, all.